Holy name of God. So this week, I think this book of Zephaniah I was about to share probably a month ago, and due to various reasons, it got delayed. Even today, also, I was not fully prepared. So I was reading this book, this prophetical book, for more than a month, and after multiple times rereading also, I was not able to complete whole. Um, so by God's grace, we'll start today, and just we will see, um, like just a overview, partial, and then a few verses from chapter 1, and then if Lord willing, I'll continue uh, in the upcoming weeks. Okay, so let me just make it as a full screen here so that, okay, brother, can you make me as a co-host so that I can share?
Yes, yes.
Yes, yes. Okay, thank you. Okay, so okay, I'll be switching here and there in the presentation. Okay, I think I need to give me a minute. Okay, here,
Sure.
yeah. Okay, just can you all see my screen? Okay, I think in TV it is not coming. Okay, so in the presentation, probably I'll just move few slides here and there. Uh, so this title, basically, it is from the author name. It is derived from the prophet Zephaniah, and so one thing that you can find his genealogy of Zephaniah in verse chapter 1, verse 1. I'll read. It says, "The word of the Lord which came to Zephaniah, son of Cushi." So there is no doubt, the word of the Lord was spoken to Zephaniah. Okay, and okay, so Zephaniah, here it talks about the genealogy of Zephaniah, which is unique about this book. Okay, so you will not find this in any other prophets. So one of the reason could be the reason Zephaniah connecting or mentioning his genealogy is to show that how he is connected to uh, the Judah family. Okay, so here it talks about in his genealogy, his father is Cushi, and his grandfather is Kedaliah, great great grandfather is Amariah, and obviously it connects to King Hezekiah. Okay, so in few versions, it might be mentioned differently, but in the ESV and NASB, it is mentioned as King Hezekiah. Okay, so which obviously shows uh, this prophet is from the lineage, or is from the genealogy, or is from the He is a descendant of King Hezekiah. So, as we all know, King Hezekiah was one of the king who was fearing God. So, in this slide, I'll just show. Okay, King Hezekiah, you can find here. Okay, so King Hezekiah was a God fearing servant, and then later Hezekiah, his son Manasseh, came in rule, and then his son Ammon, and then the King Josiah was there. Okay, so this is the genealogy about the King Hezekiah's family. Prophet Zephaniah. Okay, Prophet Zephaniah is connected to King Hezekiah. Okay, so this is what we need to understand. And the name Zephaniah, the meaning is Jehovah has treasured. So, which means Jehovah treated him as a treasure, or in the other way, it is like Jehovah has hidden. It doesn't mean that Jehovah is hiding himself. Instead, Jehovah has concealed um, Prophet Zephaniah. One of the reason could be um, after King Hezekiah, the evil Manasseh. If you read in the book of, I'll just refer my Tamil Bible because I've taken my notes from Tamil Bible. You can just read Second Kings 23. In Second Kings 23, okay, Second Kings 23 verse 10. Okay, in Second King 23 verse 10, let me read Second Kings 23 verse 10. He also defiled Tophet, which is in the valley of the son of Eno, that no man might make his son or his daughter pass through the fire of Molech. Okay. Oh, sorry. Did I make the right reference? Sorry, there was one word which talks about that Zephaniah, this King Manasseh, um, he offered his, I think, I just read that. It is in 21, sorry, verse, chapter 21, Second Kings, chapter 21, verse 6. Okay, Second King, chapter 21, verse 6. He made his son pass through the fire. Okay, practiced witchcraft and used divination and dealt with mediums and spirits. He did much evil in the sight of the Lord, provoking him to anger. So, in the there was one more word also which says that this king Manasseh, he was killing the people also. Okay, so that is how this king was a wicked king. So obviously, from after King Manasseh, as we saw, his son King Ammon, he was the king, and he is also a wicked king. So, but God was protecting King Hezekiah's lineage or King Hezekiah's family. So that is how this prophet Zephaniah might mean that he has been hidden by God. Okay, so that was the meaning. And in the first century church father Jerome, he was giving a meaning that the Lord's watchtower, and I saw few other interpreters also, John MacArthur and David Parson. They were also using like the word Jehovah has hidden. So it doesn't mean that Jehovah is hiding. So Jehovah is hiding the prophet Zephaniah. So that is how it need to be understood. Okay, and there are few other informations, like if you read this chapter, the three chapter, which contains 53 verses. but you will find the name of the god, like the Lord, the term Lord, it appears 34 times in 27 verses. Okay, directly the name, the Lord, capital Lord, that Yahweh, it appears 34 times in 27 words. And the Lord God Adonai, that appears one time. And then the word Elohim, for God, it appears four times. But if you count uh, the pronouns, okay, which is I, he, him, which talks about the pronouns substituted for the Lord, um, just I marked in my Bible, it appears 109 times in this 53 verse. Okay, in total, just think about, in a 53 verse chapter, okay, the verses are probably 500 years before the theologians added chapters and verses to the Bible. But even in that, like 53 verses, and it contains 141 words. If you count in ESV, it comes around 1141 words, word counts. But in that, directly the name of the Lord appears 34 times in 27 verse. Adonai appears once, Elohim appears four times, but the pronoun, to mention the Lord, Yahweh, Adonai, and Elohim, it appears 109 times throughout these three chapters. Okay, so that was one observation which we could see. Okay, and the first chapter, the whole of the first chapter, basically it talks about the judgment which was pronounced for Judah. Okay, the nation Judah. And then the second chapter, it was a judgment for the nearer countries. Okay, it is like the Palestinians, those who are living in like these locations you can see here. Okay, Ascalon, Asdod, the people those who are living here, as well as Sodom Gomorrah, and then it talks about Nineveh, Ethiopia. Okay, so the judgment of the God is spoken for these nearing countries. And then in the third chapter, even in the second chapter, you could see there is an invitation from God, like chapter 2, okay, verse 2. It says, before the decree takes effect, which means before the judgment of the Lord, uh, it has been pronounced, but before it takes its effect, okay, so God is inviting them, like in verse 3, seek the Lord, all you humble of the earth, who have carried out his ordinance. So God is inviting them for a repentance. Okay, so that we could see in chapter 2 beginning, and from verse 4, the judgment has been pronounced for the neighbors, okay, like a Gaza, Ascalon, Asdod, Ekron, Canaan, Palestine, and the people those live nearby the sea coast, and then Moab and Ammon, Ammon, okay, and which is compared that they will be destroyed like Sodom and Gomorrah. And it is not only talking about the Palestinians and the Sodom and Gomorrah, but it talks about the Assyria. Okay, so we saw in Jonah's book, when Jonah preached, the people in Nineveh, they got repented. But later, they are the people those who oppress the Judah and the northern kingdom. Okay, so and the God's judgment was pronounced on the Assyrians also, and it talks about in verse 15, like the pride of Assyria. Assyria was saying that I am, and there is no one besides me. So, which is only the qualified person in this universe or in this world is only the God, Yahweh, or the incarnated God. Because when Jesus came in this world, he was using I am. So that which we can see in John, the book of the Gospel book of John. Okay, so this I am phrase, uh, when God uses, it cannot be treated as a God is kind of a like a humanly way. We cannot say, see, God is pride. No, because God is worthy, and he can use the term I am, because it represents the revelation which was given to Moses in the book of Exodus. Also, when God was talking to him, God was revealing himself as Yahweh or Jehovah, which means I am that I am. I am the existing one. I am the present. So, this term only God can use, but Nineveh, the Assyrian king, because he conquered all the nations, okay, because of his pride he was using it, but God was pronouncing his judgment on Nineveh also, which during the period of, I'll just show one more, I have one more slide. So here you can see, like when Zephaniah was talking or prophesying, the same time Nahum, he is also prophesying. Okay, so um, even here also you can see, okay, in this slide, like when Zephaniah was prophesying, okay, which you can see Nahum was also prophesying, which was in the period of the King Josiah. Okay, so God was pronouncing his judgment on the neighboring countries. And in chapter 3, from verse 5, it is talking about the Lord which who lives in the midst of Jerusalem or Judah. Okay, the characters of God has been spoken, and then in this chapter, like God was using that how he will restore the Judah. Okay, so we'll go back to chapter 1 to understand the prophetical book of Zephaniah. Obviously, it is better to refer uh, the Josiah's rule, which was in Second Kings 22, verse 1 to Second Kings chapter 23 up to 30. Okay, so during the kingdom, when Josiah was being uh, ordained as a king, when he was like 8 years. Okay, so at that time, Zephaniah, uh, because he being closely associated with the royal family, he knows that the reason why, like we saw, his genealogy is mentioned. So he knows after his great grandfather Hezekiah's kingdom, how Manasseh ruined, like how he departed from the way that King David or King Hezekiah followed their God. Okay, so we could see, like what are the things that he brought in, like in Second Kings 21. Second Kings 21, we can see, I'll just read few, because it is better to understand what went wrong, before Zephaniah prophesied, and how that prophecy helped King Josiah uh, to start the Reformation. Okay, so to know that, let us read Second Kings 21, um, like verse 3, or from verse 2 and 3. Okay, Manasseh, he became a king, and then one thing you can see, he was the king who ruled 55 years. So his reign was one of the longest reign of the Judah kings. Okay, so in verse 2, Second Kings chapter 21, verse 2, he did evil in the sight of the Lord, and it says, according to the abominations of the nations whom the Lord disposed before the sons of Israel. So when God was bringing them uh, from the slavery of the Egypt, okay, God was uh, God spoken to them through the leader Moses and through Joshua, that they should not follow the traditions and the cultures of the neighboring uh, people. Okay, and they should not follow their god. Okay, so these people have been called to live an exemplary life, so that as a part of Old Testament, the call was the all the nation should come and see how God is working in this missional community, Israel. Okay, so God called them, and God made known to this world through this people. Okay, but even though, like King Hezekiah, his father was pleasing to God. Okay, but in before his death, when God has granted him additional 15 years for King Hezekiah, he has revealed his treasury. Okay, so in those things he has made a mistake. Okay, but after knowing all these things, that how his father was pleased to live the which was pleasing life to God, but Manasseh, he did a evil. Okay, and then in verse 3, it says, for he rebuilt the high places which Hezekiah his father has destroyed. Okay, because after King David, because from the period of Solomon itself, okay, Solomon has built altars for the that we can see. Just give me a minute. Okay, which is in Second Kings 23, verse 13. Second Kings 23, verse 13. So which we could found the high places which were before Jerusalem, which were on the right of the mountain of destruction, which Solomon, the king of Israel, has built for Astaroth, the abomination of the Sidonians, and for the Chemosh, the abomination of Moab. So, after King David's rule finished, okay, so there was a backsliding in the Judah. Okay, so that is where the kingdom got separated after Solomon passed. Okay, his kingdom got separated as a 10 plus 2. Okay, Judah and Benjamin, they were comes under a southern kingdom, and the rest of the remaining 10 tribes, they were called to be northern kingdom, or the Israel, where their capital was Samaria. And Solomon's servant, okay, he was the first king of that uh, side. Okay, so that is where, Manasseh, he was an evil king. Okay, and then You also find, like we saw, that Manasseh offered his son, okay, as a offering, which we read in verse 6. And then in chapter 21, verse 5, verse 5, it says, for he built altars for all the host of heaven in the two courts of the house of the Lord. It is not like a King Manasseh built something which is outside the temple of the Lord. Instead, whatever he did, the wicked things, he made it happen inside the temple of the Lord. Okay, so that we can see. And then in verse 7 also, okay, verse 7, okay. Um, okay, but God was talking to King Manasseh. Okay, so that we could understand. Okay, so now let's go to the book of Zephaniah. In book of Zephaniah, verse 2 says, I will completely remove all things from the face of the earth, declares the Lord. Okay, so when it says here, this is being limited to the kingdom of Judah. That is what I perceive, because after that it talks about, like, the prophecy was spoken to the people of Judah, the people, those who are living in Jerusalem. Okay, so that is how we can interpret that. And then from verse 3, okay, you just see, like, how the curse or the judgment of God being pronounced. It says, I will remove man and beast. Okay, so you can see, man, human beings are there, animals are there. Okay, and then I will remove the birds of the sky. Okay, so you just remember Genesis 1. Okay, the creation order, or whatever God has created. Okay, everything now subjects into the destruction or the judgment. Okay, and then the fish of the sea. And the word fourth one, it says, and the ruins along with the wicked. This one I'll just read it from the NIV, because NIV makes more sense for this word. I'll just give me a minute. I'll open NIV. If somebody has NIV, um, I'll just read that from NIV. Zephaniah 1, okay, verse 4. Okay, just give me a minute. Okay, um, I'm reading it from NIV. I will sweep away both man and beast. I will sweep away the birds in the sky and the fish in the sea, and the idols that cause the wicked to suffer. So God is talking about, through Zephaniah, to the people of Judah, that when the judgment of God comes, what He will do is, He will sweep the man and beast. He will sweep birds of the sky, fishes in the sea, and then specifically God talks about, and the idols that cause the wicked to stumble. Okay, when I destroy all mankind of the on the face of the earth, declares the Lord. So this we could see, like, how this has been accomplished during the period of King Josiah. To read that, let us go back to the Second Kings. Okay, Second Kings 23. Okay, so various activities that King Josiah is doing. Okay, so we can read it from verse 4. Okay, verse 4. So then the king commanded Hilkiah. So Hilkiah is the high priest. Josiah being the, like, at the age of 8. Okay, he became the king. Okay, so the chief priest or the high priest who was Hilkiah, he was basically helping. Okay, so he said, then the king commanded Hilkiah, the high priest, and the priest of the second order and the doorkeepers to bring out of the temple of the Lord. So from the Lord's temple, he is asking the high priest to bring out all the vessels that were made for Baal, for Asherah, and for all the host of heaven. So you can read parallelly in Zephaniah, in the verse 4 itself. Okay, in the 3 we read that the ruins along the wicked, and in the 4 it talks about in Zephaniah 1:4, I will stretch out my hands against Judah and against the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and I will cut off the remnant of Baal from this place, and the names of the idolatrous priests along with the priests. Okay, so how God is doing, that is what. And then in verse 5 it talks about, and those who bow down on the housetops to the host of heaven, and those who bow down and swear to the Lord, and yet swear by the Milcom. So the people, they were having a practice of syncretism, which means they worship the Lord Yahweh, at the same time they worship the other god. Okay, so this god Milcom is the Molech. It is a god of Ammonites. Okay, the word Milcom means great king. Okay, so we'll go back to Second Kings chapter 23. How God has used Zephaniah's prophecy to be accomplished through King Josiah. That is what we are reading. Okay, so in 23:4, okay, the command was to the Hilkiah high priest to bring the vessels that were made for Baal, for Asherah, and for all the host of heaven, and he burned them outside Jerusalem in the fields of Kidron. Okay, and carried their ashes to Bethel. Okay, just see how the prophetical word of Zephaniah has triggered or motivated King Josiah in performing the work of God. Okay, just God is reminding his people. And then in verse 5, okay, in verse 5 it talks, he did away with the idolatrous priestess. So which we could see in Zephaniah chapter 1 verse 4, it talks about, and the names of the idolater priests along with the priestess. Okay, like the priestess of Lord and the priest of Baal. Okay, the other gods, they got mixed. Okay, so in verse 5 of Second Kings 23, King Josiah was, he is did away with the idolater priests whom the king of Judah had appointed to burn incense in the high places in the cities of Judah. It is not that somebody has appointed it. Okay, King Manasseh, his great grandfather, okay, he did that mistake. Okay, so he made the other people, when he installed or when he built the altars, okay, he made other people as a priest. Okay, and also those who burn incense to Baal. Okay, uh, unto the sun, unto the moon, unto the constellation, unto all the host of heaven. So how God is using King Josiah, just think about the age of 16. Okay, becoming a king at 8 and king at when after completing his 8 years, when God spoke through the prophets. Okay, so we saw there are plenty of kings, even at their matured age they have been like a killed. Conspiracies were made against them and they have been killed. But when God was working through Josiah, Okay, so how even uh, uh, like volatile, or he's easy to be killed, but how God is working through, that is what we need to see. Okay, and then in verse 6 again, second Kings verse 23 verse 6, he brought out the Asherah from the house of the Lord. So that is what I was surprised. Even after reading multiple times, I didn't notice it. Yesterday, when I was rereading, like it was not that the temple of God is left out and the other places were made, but this wicked king Manasseh, he did everything inside the house of the Lord. Okay, and burned it into the brook Gidron and ground it to dust. So how Josiah is doing? So he made that into dust and threw its dust on the graves of the common people. Okay, and then probably we can read in verse 10. Okay, how he was stopping that the king Manasseh offered his kids, but king Josiah, he's stopping it. Okay, in verse 10, that's what I read mistakenly in the first time, that no man might make his daughter pass through the fire of Molech. Okay, so part of his reformation, he is stopping people not to offer to the pagan gods. Okay, even because even God has not asked for such a thing. Okay, what Jephthah did, it was Jephthah's knowledge to the oracles of God or to the law of the God, it was less. Okay, so that we need to understand. Okay, and then verse uh, 11. Okay, in verse 11 of second Kings 23, he did away with the horses which the king of Judah had given to the sun at the entrance of the house of the Lord by the chamber of Nathan Malek the official, which was in the precincts, and he burned the chariots of the sun with fire. Okay, and then in verse 11, verse 12, it talks about the altars which were on the roof, the upper chamber of the Ahaz, which the king of Judah had made, and the altars which Manasseh has made in the two courts of the house of the Lord. The king broke down and he smashed them there and threw their dust into the brook Kidron. And then the next verse 13 was an eye opener. Like from the period of King Solomon, okay, we can see there are many kings has come. Okay, I'll just zoom here. Okay, after King Solomon, okay, you can see his son Rehoboam, then Abijah, Asa, Jehoram, okay, Joash, Amaziah, Uzziah, Jotham. There were many kings, but none of the king removed the altars which was made by Solomon. But God was working through King Josiah, which was prophesied by Zephaniah, is coming true. Like in verse 13, the high places which were before Jerusalem, which were on the right of the mount of destruction, which Solomon, the king of Israel, had built for Ashtaroth, the abomination of Sidonians, and for Chemosh, the abomination of Moab, and for the Milcom, the abomination of the sons of Ammon, the king defiled. And in 14, he broke in the pieces the sacred pillars and cut down the Asherim and filled their places with human bones. And like the next is um, but about King Josiah, like not only Zephaniah, even before Josiah is born, it was prophesied during the period of Jeroboam itself. Okay, that we could see. So which is in First Kings. Okay, First Kings 13. Okay, First Kings 13. Give me a minute. Let me just turn my Tamil Bible. Yeah. So First Kings 13. That was the that talks about the king. Um Jeroboam, okay, who was the servant son. Okay, so he separated the kingdom of Solomon into 10 plus 2, and he was reigning the 10, okay, and what he did is like uh, so he offered like in verse First Kings 13 verse 1. Now behold, there came a man of God from Judah to Bethel by the word of the Lord, while Jeroboam was standing by the altar to burn incenses. Okay, which was obviously the work of priest. The burning incenses is not the job or is not the responsibility of the kings. It is the job of priest. But this king, okay, who was the son of servant, okay, he started burning the um, incense in the altar. So that's where God has sent a man prophet from Judah to Bethel, and he prophesied, okay, like in verse, give me a minute, okay, in verse 2, okay, that prophet, he cried against the altar by the word of the Lord and said, O altar, altar, thus says the Lord, behold, a son shall be born to the house of David, okay, Josiah by name. So it is not that like mentioning there will be a son and he will come, but God, when Lord spoke in detail, he is a God who knows or who is appointing things that are going to happen in the future. Okay, that's what in Isaiah 46 it talks about God. When it says God knows the end, it is not that God will surprise when things are changed. Oh, I need to do a plan B. No. Okay, God is a omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent. He knows, okay, what is going to happen till the, not till, even in the eternity also he knows it because he is God. Okay, so he says that there will be a person who will born, his that king name will be Josiah, and like he says, and on you he shall sacrifice the priest of the high places who burn incense on you, and human bone shall be burned. So the same prophecy, like after Zephaniah spoke, like Josiah was doing it. Okay, so he was, that's what we read it in Second Kings chapter 23. Okay, so we'll go back to Zephaniah. Okay, and in chapter 1 from verse 7, okay, the day of the Lord, okay, this book is full of the day of the Lord. You can see the day of the Lord is appearing 22 times. It appears 22 times directly as the day of the Lord or on the day. So that is how the term is being used. Okay, so it appears 22 times throughout this book. Okay, and in verse 7 it says, for the day of the Lord is near. So which means uh, the judgment on the southern kingdom, northern kingdom already they were, like you can see here, Okay, they have been taken to captivity. Before Josiah come to rule, the northern kingdom has been taken captivity. Okay, so you can see here, like before 720, okay, 722, okay, the northern kingdom has been taken captivity. Okay, and it was about close to 100 years. Now the captivity is going to come for the southern kingdom. So that's what it says, when for the day of the Lord is near. So which Zephaniah was saying that even during the period of King Josiah itself, okay, that I'll just show here. Okay, there was a woman prophet called Hulda. Okay, so like after reading the law of the God, when Hilkiah found that from the temple, okay, Josiah was talking to the people, because in the book of the Lord, like the book of the law, it talks about the judgment when people are drifting away from God, when people are in the backsliding, what are the judgments will happen. So that made King Josiah to fear. Okay, so because of the fear, he was checking with the prophet Huldah. So she replied, God will judge Judah. Yes, that decree which God has decided, it will compass, it will come true. There is no escape, but it will be delayed. Okay, since you are seeking the Lord with all your heart, okay, so that after your death, that judgment will compass. Okay, so that is what that has been told to Josiah. So that's what Zephaniah is also saying. The day of the Lord is near. So which means the Assyrians, okay, the Assyrians will come. They will, sorry, not the Assyrians. By that time, like um, the Babylonians also getting strong. Okay, they destroyed Nineveh, because here in this prophetical book itself, it talks about Nineveh. Okay, so Nineveh will get destroyed by the Babylonians, and then Babylonians will take Judah. So here you can see, like Nebuchadnezzar, okay, he took the Judah. Okay, so that's what it says. God has consecrated his guest, like God has prepared a sacrifice. So the sacrifice is Judah is going to be sacrificed. Okay, Judah is going to be judged. The judgment has to come pass, and to do that, he has consecrated his guest, which means God has appointed who is going to captive, or who is going to oppress Judah. Okay, so that we'll see later. And okay, the other things that I want to talk about is, I need to go through the day of the Lord. Okay, probably I've taken few notes. Just give me a minute. Okay, as I said, like the prophecy about Josiah, it was close to 290 years. Okay, before he was born, it was foretold that King Josiah will born. Okay, and then um, okay, um, in Second Kings 23:7 also there was uh, one sin which we can find. Second Kings 23:7. He also broke down the houses of the male cult prostitutes which were in the house of the Lord. Just see what Manasseh did. not only like a woman, even at that time itself, the sin of adultery, okay, it was there, even in the period of Sodom Gomorrah, because that's why God is comparing in Zephaniah that God will destroy like the Sodom Gomorrah. You can see which comes in chapter 2, verse 9. Therefore, as I live, declares the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, surely Moab will be like Sodom. So those people were nearby, and okay, so this sin of adultery is found in the house of the Lord. Okay, so that is how it has been corrupted during the period of Manasseh. Okay, so going back to um, chapter 1. Okay, um, okay, so from verse 14, it talks about how the day of the Lord will look like. Okay, so during the day of the Lord, it says, verse 14, near is the great day of the Lord, which means for the just after, right after Josiah's reign, the destruction is going to come on the Judah. Okay, that is what it is talks about. Near is the great day of the Lord, and near and coming very quickly. So the judgment of the God, it is coming very quickly, and it says, "Listen, the day of the Lord, and in it, warrior cries out bitterly." Okay, it is not that the strong people will escape. You can find one verse which in verse 18. Okay, chapter Zephaniah chapter 1 verse 18. Neither their silver nor their gold will be able to deliver them. Okay, on the day of the Lord's wrath, and all the earth will be devoured in the fire of his jealousy, for he will make a complete end, indeed a terrifying one of all the inhabitants of the earth. I just made a note, give me a minute. For the verse 18, there was one verse which talks about during the period of the next king. Okay, after Josiah, his son Jehoshaphat was the king at that time. Okay, he was offering the gold and silvers, but the king didn't listen to him. Just give me a minute. I made a note. It is in Second Chronicles 33. Or no, no, I'm just taking. Give me a minute. Sorry, give me a minute. In Kings. Okay. It is in Second Kings 23. Okay, Second Kings 23, verse 33 onwards. Okay, verse 33 onwards. Second Kings 23, verse 23 onwards. I'll just read Second Kings 23, verse 33 onwards. Okay. Okay. Pharaoh Necho imprisoned him at Rifla in the land of Hamad, that he might not reign in Jerusalem. Okay, so it is talking about like Jehoshaphat. You can find that in verse 30. Verse 30, later part, it says, then the people of the land took Jehoshaphat, the son of Josiah, and anointed him and made him king in the place of his father. Okay, in verse 32, like he also did evil in the sight of the Lord according to all that his fathers has done. Okay, after right after King Josiah, again Judah went back to his betrayal. Okay, and then in verse 33, Pharaoh, because even King Josiah was got killed by the Egyptian king Pharaoh. Basically, the king Pharaoh, he was supposed to fight with the Assyrians, Nineveh. Okay, to go there, obviously he has to pass through, because here you can see Egypt is here. Okay, from Egypt, if they have to go to Nineveh, okay, they have to pass through Israel. Okay, so the Pharaoh, he asked to Josiah that I will not disturb you because my enemy is Assyria, because Assyria was the mightier king at that time. Okay, so he want to meet them, but Josiah said no. Okay, then he fall into the trap, then he got killed. Okay, so that is where it says Pharaoh Necho imprisoned him in Rifla. It talks about his son Jehoshaphat, okay, in the land of Ahmad, that he might not reign in Jerusalem. And he imposed on the land a fine of 100 talents of silver and a talent of gold. Okay, and then Pharaoh Necho made Eliakim the son of Josiah king in the place of Josiah his father, and changed his name into Jehoiakim. But he took Jehoshaphat away and brought him to Egypt, and he died there. Okay, but in 35, okay, the one who was made by Pharaoh as a king. So Jehoiakim gave the silver and gold to Pharaoh. He gave the silver and gold, but he taxed the land in order to give the money at the command of Pharaoh. He exacted the silver and gold from the people of the land, each according to his valuation, to give Pharaoh Necho. Okay, but still, uh, but that didn't help him. Okay, in the later chapters, if you read, even after they give the gold and silver, that didn't help him. So that is what Zephaniah was prophesying, that your gold and silvers are not going to help you when the judgment, when the day of the Lord is coming upon you, which is nearer. Even in we know in First Peter also. Okay, in the New Testament, kind of a similar thing that Peter was talking, that we have not been saved. Like First Peter 1:18. Okay, knowing that you are not redeemed with perishable things like silver or gold from your futile way of life inherited from your forefathers, but with the precious blood, as of a lamb, unblemished and spotless, the blood of Christ. Okay, so in New Testament also, like, we are not being saved because of the gold and silver, unless God protects. Okay, unless God saves, we cannot be saved on our own. Okay, in Romans also, in Romans um, 3 also, we can find that Christ was our propitiation. Okay, so that is different. But why I'm saying is, when the wrath of the God, when the wrath of the Lord reveal, okay, nothing can save us. Only thing that can protect, or then only thing that save us, is the blood that has been shed on the cross. That is what Romans 3, if you read Romans 3. Okay, Romans 3, it talks about, like, verse, okay, verse 21. But now, apart from the law, the righteousness of God has been manifested, being witnessed by the law and the prophets. Okay, so there are two things getting manifested. One is the wrath of God, on the other hand, and the righteousness of God. We can see in Romans chapter 1, okay, verse 18. Okay, verse 18, it says, for the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who suppresses the truth in unrighteousness. Okay, and in verse 17, it talks about, for in it the righteousness of God is revealed from faith. So there are two things being revealed. One is the righteousness of God is revealed, and the second, the wrath of God. So to escape the wrath of God, the righteousness of God the Father is, that is what it is mentioned in Romans 3, like verse 24, being justified as a gift by his grace through the redemption which is in Christ Jesus, whom God displayed publicly as a propitiation in his blood through faith. Okay, so which the righteousness of Father God is revealed on the cross to escape or to make us protected from the wrath of God. Okay, so which is by the propitiation uh, in his blood through faith. This was to demonstrate his righteousness. Okay, so similarly, in the Zephaniah's period, King Josiah's period, okay, when the wrath of God comes, okay, nothing on our own it could save us. So that is what it said in verse Zephaniah 1:18. Neither their silver nor their gold will be able to deliver them on the day of the Lord's wrath. Okay, so that we could see. And going back to verse 15, the day of the Lord, or the Lord's day, okay, the judgment day, which is talks about a day of trouble and distress. Okay, so when it comes on the people, it is going to be a trouble and distress. Okay, and then it is a day of destruction and desolation, a day of darkness and gloom, a day of clouds and thick darkness, a day of trumpet and battle. Okay, so these are all not only to the nearer during the period of, after the period of Josiah, even these prophecies are applicable in the upcoming days also. Okay, so this is like a nearer, and now it is also applicable. Okay, so I'll stop here because I have to go through chapter 1, the rest, and then the chapter 2 and 3, because I was, as I said, I'm rereading. If Lord willing, I'll continue in the upcoming days. Um, God's name be glorified. Okay, thank you.